Combattants de l'indépendance, aujourd'hui victorieux, je vous salue au nom du gouvernement congolais.
This is Patrice Lumumba. He is currently giving a speech at the proclamation of the Congo's independence. And in attendance is this guy, King Baudouin of Belgium. There are other Belgian and Congolese officials present. Lumumba's speech is being broadcasted to the whole world, and he makes one little mistake that sealed his fate. Months later, he would be captured and assassinated by Belgium with help from the CIA. But how did Lumumba find himself in such a situation? It's the late 19th century, and King Leopold II is frustrated at Belgium's lack of international power. So he urges the government to support colonization of the then largely unvisited Congo Basin. But with the government having mixed feelings about the idea, King Leopold decided to make a colony on his own account. And with the support of other Western countries, the Congo Free State received international recognition in 1885. But between 1885 and 1908, the atrocities committed under King Leopold II would forever remain etched in history. See, the area under Leopold's rule was over 2.6 square kilometers, and at the time, the colony was largely unprofitable and always close to bankruptcy. This was until a boom in the demand for natural rubber created a radical shift in the 1890s, and the Congo Basin was full of natural rubber. To facilitate the extraction of this natural rubber, all land was nationalized by the government and given to private companies as concessions. These companies were given free rein to exploit and test the limits of these concessions between 1891 and 1906. The result was forced labor being used to maximize profits and minimize costs in the rubber collection. Refusing to cooperate could be met with destruction of a village or even sometimes death. One of the most infamous punishments given to workers was the mutilation of limbs of those who fled or resisted. This punishment was originally a way to show proof of killing and was only done on dead bodies. But over time, they started doing it on people who were alive to make the numbers look right while saving bullets, and it became a method to force compliance and instill fear in the people of the Congo. In 1908, under international pressure, the Belgian government annexed the Congo Free State to form the Belgian Congo, and ended many of the systems that caused pain and suffering to the people of the Congo. Patrice Lumumba was not born into power. He was born into a system that was designed to keep him small. In the Congo of his childhood, Africans were not citizens. They were subjects. They could not vote, they could not speak freely, and yet from this very system, a dangerous man was growing. Lumumba had little formal education, but what he lacked in schooling, he made up for in hunger. Hunger for knowledge, for truth, for dignity. He taught himself French, he read newspapers, he studied politics, and slowly he began to understand what was happening to his people. He found work as a postal clerk, a small job but a powerful one. Through letters and newspapers, the world came to him. He read about independence movements across Africa, Ghana, Egypt, Guinea, black nations rising, colonial powers falling, and inside him, something awakened. Soon, Lumumba wasn't just reading about freedom, he was speaking about it. His words carried something rare, not just anger, but belief. Belief that the Congolese deserved more than survival. Belief that they deserved dignity. And people listened. By the late 1950s, Lumumba helped form the Movement National Congolais, or the MNC. Its mission was simple: a united Congo led by the Congolese, free from Belgian rule, not divided by tribe, not ruled by outsiders. One nation. Simple. The message spread fast, and in 1958, Lumumba was invited to Ghana for the All African People's Conference. For the first time, he stood beside the giants of African independence. Men like Kwame Nkrumah, men who had already broken their chains. That's when Lumumba realized something. This struggle was bigger than Congo. It was African. When he returned home, Belgium was now watching him closely. He had become too popular, too powerful. By 1959, Lumumba's voice could no longer be ignored. Congo's independence was no longer a question of if, but when. And standing at the center of it all was Patrice Lumumba. This brings us back to the beginning of the video, the day of Congo's independence. We're in a grand hall filled with Belgian and Congolese officials. The flags are raised and everyone sits down. Everyone is on edge. The atmosphere is tense and the whole world is watching. King Baudouin steps up first and prepares to deliver his speech. In his speech, he praises Belgium for civilizing Congo, as if Belgium had done so politely and was now handing it over. He praised King Leopold II, his great uncle, for the civilizing efforts. While this is happening, Lumumba is slowly losing it. Why was Baudouin saying this? He spoke to the Congolese like a father speaking to his children, presenting independence like a gift and not something the people of the Congo fought for. This was insulting and hit Lumumba right in the chest. Baudouin steps down and everyone applauds, but suddenly Lumumba stood up. The clapping stops. Silence. What is Lumumba doing? This was not on the program. No one had invited him to give a response, but he did so anyway. The room's atmosphere flipped. Lumumba did not thank Belgium. He spoke of the pain and suffering the people of the Congo experienced because of the color of their skin. The prisons, the beatings, the forced labor. He said it all. Faces stiffened. Belgian officials froze in their seats. This is not a speech they had prepared for. Lumumba had done the unthinkable on live television, embarrassing Belgium in the process. The applause that followed was not an enthusiastic one. It was very polite, nervous. Behind all the smiles, the decisions were already being made, because Lumumba had become a very big problem. Independence lasted less than a few weeks. That's how long it took for the Congo to become a mosh pit. It had become so dangerous. Not dangerous to its people, but to powerful interests. To the west, Lumumba was unpredictable, and worst of all, he spoke of control over Congo's resources. This was the middle of the Cold War, and in Washington, London, and Brussels, there was only one question. What if Lumumba turns to the Soviets? Not because he had, but because he could, and the possibility alone was unacceptable. Just days after independence, Congo began to fracture. Katanga, the richest province, announced it was seceding. This was no accident. Katanga was where the copper was, the uranium, the money. Belgian mining companies backed it. Congo was literally being split from the inside. With the army mutinying and Katanga breaking away, Lumumba turned to the United Nations. He asked for help. The UN arrived, but they refused to help him stop the secession. They would keep order, but not restore sovereignty. To Lumumba, this was betrayal. Lumumba turned east. He asked the Soviet Union for help. Planes, trucks, support. In Washington, alarms went off. CIA cables described Lumumba as a threat to the Western interests. President Eisenhower reportedly approved his removal. Not arrest, removal. The language was careful, and the intention was not. Belgium didn't need convincing. They'd never forgiven Lumumba for June 30th. Behind closed doors, Belgian officials spoke openly about eliminating him. They funded his rivals, advised his enemies, and they were pulling strings in the background. Inside Congo, another figure was rising. Joseph Mobutu. Young, ambitious, backed by the army, backed by money, backed by the CIA, Mobutu didn't speak like Lumumba. He didn't challenge the West. He promised order, and order was exactly what foreign powers wanted. So in September 1960, Mobutu moved. He suspended parliament, neutralized Lumumba, placed him under house arrest. Officially, Lumumba was still prime minister. In reality, he was trapped. The UN did nothing about this. Belgium smiled politely, the United States watched closely. Lumumba tried to escape, he failed, and when he was captured, everyone knew what would happen next. Lumumba was gone, and nothing really got better after that. Mobutu stepped in. He looked calm, spoke confidently. To the outside world, that was enough. To Congo, it meant something else. The country was renamed, new symbols, but the power stayed in the same hands, and the wealth kept leaving. Congo stayed rich on paper, but its people didn't. Mobutu ruled for years, and anyone who challenged him didn't last. And anyone who talked about Lumumba learned to stop. Silence became normal. What Lumumba talked about never had time to take root. A strong Congo would have been harder to control than a divided one. But still, people remembered him. Because he spoke plainly, because he didn't pretend, because for a moment, someone stood up and said what everyone else was thinking. Lumumba wasn't killed for being violent. He was killed for being honest and refusing to play along. He was killed for saying no. Near the end of his life, he wrote a letter in which he said, Africa would one day write its own history, a history full of dignity. That day didn't come then. Maybe it still hasn't, but he left behind a question. When a country becomes independent, who is really in control? And what happens to the people who say it isn't enough? Lumumba didn't live long, but he said something that lasted. And that's the reason why people to this day still talk about him.